First, and here, definitely all of us will start chiming in. But first, what I want to say is that pricing is something in your organizations, and even personally, you may find that you already have opinions on. It's a very common thing. We hear so much about pricing in the news, on LinkedIn, and that makes it more susceptible to have a lot of myths. The first myth I encounter in my life is when I talk to founders, when I talk to execs, when they talk about pricing, they only talk about price point. When we talk about pricing, we think more holistically. But executives, when let's say if you're thinking about the offer or packaging, suddenly they start to say, no, 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 that's the product. So it's funny that the more senior somebody is, the less receptive they are to understanding what pricing really is. And the more they make an assumption that pricing is about the price point, which it is absolutely. Price point is one of the last things to actually consider. So that's one myth. Second, equally, this is more of a inside baseball in SaaS. People think it's mostly about the pricing metric. So you will hear a lot of conversations on LinkedIn and otherwise about usage-based pricing. You will hear a lot of conversation about outcome-based pricing. I hear a lot of VC podcasts. I listen to All In podcasts. I listen to BG2. These are some of the more popular VC podcasts. And whenever they talk about pricing, they only talk about the pricing metric. They only talk about, should it be usage-based pricing or not? When they say pricing model, that's what they mean. Should it be usage based pricing? Should it be outcome based? Should it be token based? And it's just one decision, which is the pricing metric decision. But even VCs, when they talk about pricing metric, it's not as if because they're VCs that they understand the domain. They don't, in my opinion. And even if a VC is a billionaire, I mean, I'm not, they still don't know pricing. Okay, so it's like the 12 blind people and the elephant. Everybody has their own vantage point, and that's how they talk about it. But it doesn't change the fact that it is still the elephant. The third thing, this is the reason I wrote the first version of my book. People think I need to choose my strategy for among 15 different options. And if you're new to pricing, what you will do is you'll Google, and Google will say, here are all the 10,000 different pricing quote unquote strategies. There are not 10,000 or 15 different strategies. There is just a couple of decisions that you have to make. And people start terming these strategies. This is the penetration strategy. This is the skimming strategy. Different things like simple options that you may choose, they keep start to add more names, and they start to add more complexity. There is actually not that much complexity, which you will see. Number four is something it's a little bit of my pet peeve, where people think about competition as the first thing. And I run into a lot of this when I speak with younger or earlier founders. And many of my sales conversations go about, hey, I'm thinking about pricing. This is what my competitor does. And I'm like, I understand that you're thinking about pricing, but you have told me nothing about where your company is, what your strategy is, what you want to do. And you have omitted all of that to directly go to competition, which it should really be like somewhere in the mission statement. But if you make it all about competition, then you are giving into their frame of business, and their frame is probably very different from your frame. And you limit yourself severely when you do that. Number five, I should charge more for X because it was so hard to build X. So this we will hear more from technical teams and from professional services teams, and they say, "Man, this was so hard to build. Make sure you charge a lot for it, okay?" And it will happen a lot with engineering organizations also, because they'll say this cost us so much. And the thing is that this is more of a product management problem, because you may get something built and it may be hard, but it could still be table stakes. And if it's table stakes, you may not be able to differentiate with it. You may do something very hard and it may not even be helpful. And so it doesn't mean that you charge a lot for it. You can only charge a lot because the perception of value is there in the mind of the prospect and the buyer. Otherwise, you can't really charge a lot for something. Like charging a lot has little to do with how much it costs, outside of the fact that you want to stay economical, and you want to stay above board. You want to have some margin. And then number six is interesting, because I am talking about value based pricing. The six is I can simply charge based on the percentage of value I deliver. This is also a myth, because a lot of people will say, hey, listen, you told me to do value based pricing. I'm doing value based pricing. I am delivering so much value and I want X% of the return. Well, ChatGPT can say the same thing. ChatGPT is offering so much value in our life. It is not taking 10% of the value, it is taking much lesser. Why? Because DeepSeek is free and all of the alternatives are free. ChatGPT cannot be that pricey. And I'll show you a Mary Maker's trend chart about this. Even if you deliver outsized value to somebody, you can still only charge as much as the other alternative, even in the context of value based pricing. You can't really go outsized because the prospect is that can choose an alternative very easily, right? Like they just don't necessarily need to choose you. So again, this shows you a lot. Even with some level of sophistication, there can still be some myths.